Our Hamlin. If we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I'm about to sign Senate Bill 288. And with the signing of 288, we begin to change the culture in the state of Ohio in regard to distracted driving. That's really what this bill is all about. The law really is a teacher, and we have examples throughout our history. And what the people of the state of Ohio are saying today through their legislature and through my signature is that distracted driving is a killer, it's unnecessary, and if we can eliminate distracted driving, we will save many, many, many lives. Last year, I asked the state legislature in my State of the State speech to pass distracted driving. I told some of the members of the General Assembly that probably at no time in their career would they have the opportunity to vote on a bill, pass a bill, where it was so certain that their vote in favor of a bill would save many, many, many lives. So by my signature today, we will begin to change the culture. We will save many lives. No one will ever know whose lives are saved. But we know with the signature on this bill today that many families will be spared the horror and tragedy of having a call, a visit from the Highway Patrol or the police to tell them that their child, their mom, their dad, their spouse is dead. So I thank the legislature very, very much for this bill. I want to specifically thank Cindy Abrams, Brian Lampton, Jeff Larray, Stephanie Coonsey, Nathan Manning, Bob Hackett, and frankly many, many more in the legislature. We thank all of them. I want to also thank everyone else who has been involved for the last few years in pushing to get this bill passed. We'll hear later on from Don Tiberi, who has certainly been a leading proponent of this. But there are also other family members, victims, family members of victims who have taken the tragedy that has occurred, the loss, the sorrow, and tried to make something very positive out of it. And so it's been their sacrifice, their willingness to go public, their willingness to talk about their tragedy that has also helped us bring us to this day. I want to also thank Ralph Cole of the laborers. This has been something that has been a real passion of Ralph's, and he has talked to me a number of times about it. Why the laborers? Well, it's because these men and women are out on our highways along with our own state employees through construction zones every single day, trying to make our roads better. Their biggest enemy is distracted driving. Someone who comes into that zone and because they're distracted and is paying no attention, doesn't even know they're in the zone sometimes, and tragedy then occurs. So this passage of this bill, the signature today, is also a blow in favor of an effort to help those men and women who are out there every day who are working on our highways. I want to thank the truckers. They fully understand the need for this. The insurers, contractors, and also law enforcement. Just a little data. Between 2013 through 2021, traffic fatalities in Ohio steadily went up nearly every single year. In 2021, 1,355 people were killed, the highest number of traffic deaths since 2002. Last year's traffic fatality data is still preliminary, but we know that at least 1,269 people died in car crashes. Now, we know that not every single accident is caused, of course, by distracted driving, but it's certainly no coincidence that evolving smartphone technology has coincided with increasing roadway deaths and serious injuries. That's no accident. It's no coincidence. Quite simply, distracted driving is just as dangerous as drunk driving is, and we need to treat it that way. Far too many drivers, including otherwise good, safe drivers who would never consider driving drunk, are willing to risk their lives and the lives of others to get a look at their phone. It's not just texting, it's scrolling through social media, live streaming, playing games, watching videos, and more. One fatal crash last year involved a driver who slammed into the back of a semi on US 35 in Ross County. Tragically, there was no evidence that the driver tried to brake to avoid impact, but troopers did find his phone in the front seat with a video still playing. Tragedies like this are entirely preventable, and we believe that Senate Bill 288 will, without a doubt, prevent distracted driving crashes and will save lives. With some exceptions, this bill essentially bans drivers from using and even holding a cell phone or other electronic communication device while their vehicle is in motion. In most circumstances, law enforcement will now be able to immediately stop any driver seen manipulating a device instead of focusing on the road. Before this bill, our police, our law enforcement, could not pull over a distracted driver until they committed an additional traffic violation, such as running a red light or crashing into another innocent driver. Senate Bill 288 gives our law enforcement officers the ability to proactively prevent crashes like this from happening, and I applaud the legislature for bringing this bill to my desk today. Again, to be clear, this bill is about a lot more than pulling people over and handing out tickets. It's about changing the culture around distracted driving and normalizing the fact that distracted driving is just as unacceptable and just as dangerous as drunk driving. This legislation is about making the act of putting down your phone just as ingrained as putting on your seatbelt. It's about ensuring that more people make it home to their families at the end of the day, and that really is what it's all about. Now I'd like to give Lieutenant Governor Houston, Representative Abrams from the House, Senator Coonsey from the Senate a chance to say a few words. We'll also hear from Ohio State Highway Patrol Head Colonel Charles Jones and someone you all know, WBNS's Dom Taberry. Dom's precious daughter, Maria, died in a traffic crash in 2013, and he's been tirelessly spreading the message about the dangers of distracted driving ever since. But first, let me introduce Lieutenant Governor John Houston. John.
Thank you, Governor. It's a day to celebrate the success of what was able to be accomplished through the legislative process. I know in this very room, I don't know how many times I've heard the governor push the team and talk with legislators about the need to get this accomplished. So, Governor, congratulations. I know this has been very important to you. You fought for it, and the members of the General Assembly, thank you for that work. This bill signing today represents a triumph for persistence and a true lesson in how the legislative process really works. Because I do remember after the governor laid out the case for why we need to make distracted driving a primary offense, he shared the statistics, he explained how many lives were impacted and lost as a result of distracted driving. But there was pushback. I know that there were some initial legislative concerns about civil liberties and privacy rights and potential for a law being abused, and those issues got aired out in the legislative process. But also, the other side of the story was given a platform to explain and educate through that legislative process. And by introducing the legislation, the voices of moms and dads, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters who lost loved ones got a chance to have their stories heard. The families who lost loved ones at an intersection or in a construction zone got to tell their stories about the lives lost for such an unnecessary reason. And by giving voices to these families in the legislative process, the memory of those lost in these tragic accidents and their stories prevailed. Finally, making distracted driving a primary offense sends a clear message that this behavior is unacceptable. And we have a new law that will create more awareness about the dangers of distracted driving, and it will save lives. I've been on a number of Ohio highways over the last 20 years in the passenger seat of cars. And I've seen it. I don't know, you cannot take a trip on a highway without passing somebody who's doing this, whose eyes are down and not up. I've seen the near misses and the tragic accidents, and even myself have been hit by a distracted driver. It's out there, it's pervasive in our culture today, and it's killing people. And today, we begin to change that culture. We begin to explain, as the governor very well articulated, that this is unacceptable. And we begin to change the environment that exists on our roads and highways. So congratulations to the governor and the legislature and to all who shared their stories of the losses and the memories of those loved ones who are truly part of the effort to change the law in the state of Ohio today. And with that, I will turn it over to one of our legislative leaders and sponsors, Representative Abrams.
Governor, let me just mention one thing that I forgot to mention. I think it's very important. This bill is, the distracted driving bill is contained within a bigger bill. And I want to say something about the bigger bill and the process that the legislature went through. This is a criminal justice reform bill that a lot of people have worked on. We worked directly with the legislature on this, Andy Wilson and others from my team. But I think the legislature is to be complimented on the fact that they reached out to prosecutors, that they reached out to defense attorneys, that they reached out to law enforcement agencies. And so everybody was heard on this bill. We all should have the same goals, and number one always is the protection of the public. And so I want to thank the legislature for that inclusion, pulling people together. No bill is perfect. I think this is a good bill, and I think the public can be assured that everyone might not agree with every portion of the bill, but everyone during this process was heard, and I think that's very, very important. Let me now turn it over to Representative Cindy Abrams. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Governor, for signing this important piece of legislation. As we all know, driving is a tremendous responsibility. And as the governor already stated, this bill is not about writing tickets. It's not about punishing people. It's truly about changing our behavior behind the wheel. We are all going to be able to see the difference in Ohio. Our roadways are going to be safer, and we are going to truly save lives with this bill. I want to thank the whole entire team that made this happen. Certainly, as the Lieutenant Governor stated, it's about teamwork here. In the General Assembly and with the executive branch, and it took a whole team to get this across the finish line to the governor's desk, and many of you are here today. So I thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm State Senator Stephanie Kunze, and I am so grateful to be standing here this morning at this historic day. I want to thank the governor for his leadership on this issue. I remember the day that that the Senate had introduced a similar piece of legislation. The families that came and spoke at that press conference, those stories are stories that stay with you and are stories that we don't want any other Ohio family to endure. I'm thankful to Dom Taberry, who is my constituent, who has been tireless in his efforts to improve Ohio's roadways to make them safer for all families. I'm very grateful to Representative Abrams and the House for their leadership and their work in getting this across the finish line. And I'm super grateful to Senators Manning and Hackett for their unwavering support of this bill in the Senate. So I'm also very encouraged. You've heard some of the statistics, and I had the unfortunate opportunity to drive through Georgia unwillingly, actually, when my Southwest flight canceled over the holiday. And they've actually had this law on the books since 2018, and they're seeing a reduction in the numbers of deaths and fatalities. It's working. They have an aggressive ad campaign to remind people to put their phone down. We've seen statistics at how addictive social media and a phone is, especially for young people. And so I'm very encouraged and hopeful today that this historic signing will save many lives and that we will, as Ohioans, be hands-free in 2023. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Dom Taberry. For 41 years, I've done the sports at WBNS 10 TV, but this morning I am here as Maria's dad. Maria was my 21-year-old daughter, my wife Terry and I's daughter, and she was killed in a distracted driving accident in 2013. I want to thank the governor and Lieutenant Governor Husted for allowing me to be here. I want to thank the legislators for getting behind this. In sports terms, this is a victory. This is a win for the state of Ohio. My prayer is that this will save lives. I believe it will. Every state that has enacted this type of legislation has seen a dramatic decrease in car crashes and deaths. You know, we'll rattle off statistics to you, but I want you all to remember one thing. Every statistic has a family. Every statistic has a mom and dad, a brother and a sister, grandparents that are missing that person. This is personal for me. It has become a mission. We need to change the culture. I agree 100% with the governor. It is so easy to tell you what distracted driving is. It's anything that takes your hands, eyes, or mind off your driving. It is texting and driving. It is using electronic devices. It is eating. It is everything that takes your mind. It's drinking alcohol. It's driving while under the influence of drugs. All those things are distracted driving. You can ask the colonel, he'll tell you it's underreported. I would argue that 80% of the crashes, maybe even higher, are due to some kind of distraction. And we need to end this madness. We are losing our youngest and our brightest on the highways. It's the leading killer of our children, and we need to end this madness. It has become a mission for me, and it is about changing the culture. Maria's message that we started with my 10 TV family, we have now presented it 150 times, mainly to high schools, and that will continue. The Maria Taberry Foundation, that was started by my wife Terry and I, we initially bought 48 driving simulators, state-of-the-art, at $15,000 a piece, and we've placed them around the state of Ohio, primarily with police departments. Of late, we have now opened 3 driving simulator labs, one at Toll's Career Center, the Eastland Fairfield Career Center, and as we speak, we're setting up a 3rd at the Fort Hays Career Center. We have made a commitment that we're going to get aggressive, and we want to open at least 4 more in the next year and a half. Those efforts will continue. I tell the kids when I go to speak to them at Maria's message that the most important thing that they're going to hear from me on this day is that they need to understand their lives matter and that they are loved and that they are important. And I tell them that Maria's message is a message of love. And to the state of Ohio, I am here to tell you that we did this out of love. We don't want any other families to go through the nightmare of losing a child. Governor, you know what it's all about. I thank you. God bless everyone, and we're going to make Ohio the best state in the union when it comes to this. We're going to end the madness. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Colonel Charles Jones, the Superintendent of the Ohio State Highway Patrol. Thank you, Governor DeWine, for your leadership, and to the legislature for passing this bill. It's very, very important, and no doubt it's going to save lives. I'm honored to be here for this bill signing, which will make distracted driving a primary offense, which is intended to help make Ohio's roads safer. I have served with the Ohio State Highway Patrol for more than 28 years and have personally witnessed on countless occasions the detrimental effects of distracted driving. We know that every time someone takes their focus off the road, even for just a few seconds, they put their lives and the lives of others in danger. Law enforcement officers see the deadly consequences of distracted driving on a daily basis and the tragedy that's left in its wake. More often than not, these distractions involve the use of electronic devices. I can tell you from personal experience, notifying someone that their loved one is not coming home is not easy, and there is no amount of training that can be given to law enforcement to make them handle that task. We as troopers take it to heart. Our job every day is to ensure that motorists make it home to their families and that we make it home to ours. Just last year, Ohio lost 1,269 people in traffic crashes because of choices such as not wearing a safety belt, distracted driving, speeding, and impaired driving. With sadness, our troopers often see the tragedy left in the wake of distracted driving. Therefore, it is so meaningful that for our troopers and Ohio's law enforcement officers, this bill provides the ability to conduct a traffic stop of someone who is driving and has a cell phone in their hand while watching a video or a person who is actively texting. It is our hope that through this legislation, we can stop them before they crash, injuring others or themselves. Distracted driving is unsafe and irresponsible, and in a split second, the consequences can be devastating. The tenets of this bill will inevitably change behavior and culture because it provides law enforcement with the authority to take immediate action by pulling over a motorist who is observed engaging in dangerous behavior before a tragedy occurs. Statistics show that primary enforcement of distracted driving laws has shown to decrease fatality rates in states that have implemented this type of legislation. This is precisely why this bill will help achieve our mutual goals of increasing safety on our roads and provide law enforcement officers with the tools to deter and enforce its provisions. More importantly, however, the bill being signed today will undoubtedly enhance and change driving behaviors, saving countless lives on Ohio's roadways. Thank you. Governor DeWine.
All right, let's go sign a bill. Everybody gather in here. Ben, come on. Guys, go first. Well, the number of pens we have here gives a good indication of the number of people who were involved in getting this bill signed. So this will be a slow. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
This might be a record right here.
I don't think I've ever
Number
seen
of pens
somebody.
used in a bill.
This is yeah. Well, I know where I'm going anyway. Anybody good at singing or something?
Surely we have to have somebody that's got a great voice in here, no?
Director of the Department of Transportation go down as top 10 list for highway sign sayings.
You know what? Those are the best. Yes. Let's talk about that. How do you guys come up with that? People send in what they want you to put up?
Crowdsourcing.
A lot of those ODOT employees on their own.
Really?
Yeah, when we were touring out there, they shared that.
Well, it sounds like you got one for hands-free and 23. So
You know
we
what?
should be up on the sign.
We were driving, and my husband said.
Yeah, I thought we didn't quite get what we wanted, but we got close. We got close.
There will be more messages as this law goes into effect.
That's
I
right.
agree.
An educational campaign.
Yes.
That's right. I know. He's got a system.
Don't tell anybody.
I'm not very,
It is testing the paper, isn't it?
it is, it's legit.
I was wondering, how are you going to do this here?
That's ugly. It's not pretty. My handwriting's not great. This must be a record here.
I've never seen this many pens.
Again, I am grateful for everyone's hard work. It's an amazing amount of work.
40.
Gotta get that one.
Governor, would you like us to start distributing some of these pens?
Here, I'm gonna get, wait a minute, I got one for Dom here, so. That's the ones we're looking for.
There we go. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, again, thank you all very, very much for this work. And this truly, your work will truly save lives.